Hello everyone, today we're going to talk about everyone's favorite topic, tier lists, the most polarizing things on the face of the earth. Bringing up tiers is like a great way of getting into an argument. It's like, Joe Lycett had a good joke, it's like going to a dinner party, saying what do you think about Brexit, and then opening up a box of wasps. For those of you in America who don't know what Brexit is, it's a kind of biscuit or cookie that we in Europe like to enjoy with our tea. But we are going to look at a couple of lists in this one. They're not my own because, as you know, I've already graduated from tier list making rehab and I don't want to risk a relapse. And then again, I already made the infinity tier list, a list that by design will stay accurate for all time. I referenced it with these lists we're going to look at today, by the way, and at least according to these pro players, it's still accurate, which is pretty funny. The thing about making a tier list is it's kind of like flashing your dick. Even if people aren't that interested, they will look, at least briefly. So I have seen a bunch of lists the last few weeks, and I noticed something interesting about them, which is kind of why I'm talking about this right now, which was that I kind of liked them all and agreed with them almost completely, which is very rare because like the whole point of a tier list is that people disagree about it. That's why they become so clickbaity. But the tier lists have started to converge for the first time, and it's very interesting. It's like convergent evolution. You know how some birds who live in caves have like click noises to navigate in the darkness, and then you have like dolphins in the murky waters of the Amazon doing the same thing, and they devolve their eyes because they don't use them in the darkness. We're facing a different kind of darkness, the darkness of sitting at home and being ass fucked by Devil Jin's broken ass hell sweep 60 times a day. And so through that process, I think the tier lists are starting to look the same, which is very interesting. It's kind of the first time this has been happening, and that's what I want to give a bit of a comment on in this video. But let's look at the first one. That's the wrong image, something I was looking at for a friend. This one is by Book, the pro Thai player, very good player. Let's start with the top tier. That's the thing with these lists. You look at the top and then at the bottom, the middle isn't that interesting. It's like the opposite of an Oreo. But the very top character in this list is Akuma, and I don't think anybody's going to disagree that he is the best character in the game and will remain the best character in the game for as long as this game is a thing. Because he's basically a failed design. They put something in the game that didn't belong, a character that can become intangible and immune to damage whenever he wants to, and turn every single poke into an inescapable death combo. So not only a broken character, but pretty much as broken as anything even has the potential to be in this game. It's such a precious and beautiful thing that so few people play him. Otherwise we would be in big trouble. Maybe it's thanks to his difficult execution. That's a really great thing. We have a couple of usual suspects up here, Fakum Lam, Leroy. And then two interesting characters, Julia and Devil Jin, who have gradually, like their position in these lists has gradually gone up and up as people realize just how good they are. Julia is considered by most people to be by far the best female character in the game right now, and I completely agree with that. Amazing mix-ups, like great tools for absolutely everything, very little risk as well. And then Devil Jin, probably the best Mishima in the game by a margin. Leroy is interesting because he was, extremely overpowered, but then he was nerfed in a way where I actually think he has gotten a bit weaker, which is very good. I think they still have, ways to go with him. I still don't love a Hermit stance. I think Hermit stance is a bit too much, especially with its built-in parries, especially with the down 3-2 transition, but it's a place where an overpowered character has actually suffered because of the nerfs, which is good. Fakum Lam had really big nerfs in the latest update patch, but he's still up here according to almost all players, and I think it kind of starts to put into perspective just how good he was for a really long time. You can nerf him super hard, and it doesn't even scratch the surface. And when we talk about these things, people like to bring up this argument how like Tekken is so balanced because any character can beat any character. And that's true, but it also doesn't paint the whole picture. I kind of think of that this way. Say we have like my 90-year-old grandmother, and she's sitting in a room with a pistol, and then like a trained special forces soldier comes in with the full kit and everything, If my grandmother manages to shoot him, yeah, he's gonna die, but it doesn't mean that my grandmother versus a trained killer is a fair fight, right? It just means that we have these really powerful moves, and if we connect with something, we can defeat the opponent. It doesn't mean it's a fair fight. That's kind of my perspective on that, but there you go. So really interesting. If we go down a little bit, we have Zafina. It looks like she's in like 8th place right here. Most people like to place her in about the top 10. I play her, which means that I'm going to downplay and underestimate her. This is something that you have to be aware of when you look at tier lists. We all underestimate our own favorite character. So, you know, I always talk about, you know, Elisa being really bad in like bottom tier, and you probably underestimate how powerful your own character is. It's, I think, because we just associate them with all the difficulty and struggle that comes with playing this game. But I think Zafina is a good character. I really dislike the nerf to her just frame combo ender. The damage, it needed to be there to make that feel chunky and fun, and they actually just cut out a big part of the fun factor for the character with that nerf, but she still has the movement and everything else. So that's cool. Another interesting thing about that tier is you have Claudio, who's also migrating up recently, and I completely agree with this again. He's been underestimated for a really long time, and he's honestly a bit of a monster. Lydia in the same tier. Then at the top of the next tier, we've got Elisa. Again, I think she should be lower, but it's whatever. And then we've got the other characters that I play and like down here. So, you know, Miguel, Bob. And I probably agree that out of all my characters, Zafina is the best one. And then bottom tier, we've got Bears, Lars, Gigas, Armor King, Anna and Eddie, who I think are all weak. I don't think Huarong should be down here at all. I think he's honestly a bit of a nightmare. I think he's very, very strong. I mean, Plasma Blade is just such a good move, you know, for whiff punishment. The fact that it hits grounded, you can get it guaranteed in all these positions. I think he's extremely, extremely good. So that would be like the one thing that stands out as being weird to me, is Huarong being that low. But apart from that, like, everything looks almost perfect. And where I do disagree, I could, like, you know, completely see the argument. It's that kind of a thing. Let's move on and look at Fergus's list. There he is, the handsome devil. And we're looking at pretty much the exact same tier right away for the top tier, which is, again, really interesting. Akuma at the very top, and then these characters, Julia, Geese, Fakum Lam, Devil Jin. The one big difference being that Leroy is 2 tiers lower here. And like I said, he has suffered because of nerfs. I don't think he's dropped this far at all. But Fergus does, and it's like, yeah, I can see that argument too. Again, Zafina barely making it into the top 10. And then as we go down, we've got Miguel, Bob. Where does he place Elisa? Elisa quite a lot further down, and I think this is a much more appropriate placing for her. I think she belongs down with like Lars and Lei and characters like that. But there you go. Where does he place Huarong, by the way? I want to know. Can't see Huarong. Where is he? Oh, there he is. Okay, so he's next to Shaheen in this sort of middle tier. Fair enough. And then bottom, I mean, Anna's at the very bottom. I don't know if that's a joke. People like to make, you know, bottom tier jokes in their lists. I've done that in my videos as well. Fergus, I think he mains Anna. Who does Fergus main? Like any girl with a thick ass, right? But he's placed her very low down. Maybe it's this thing of like underestimating your own main character. She is kind of weak, but she can do some stuff. She's got, you know, she's got tools. But I agree that she's kind of weak, mainly because of the big risk factor of a lot of her moves. So yeah, fair enough. And then the final list I want to look at is, it's kind of the messiest looking one, but it was kind of the most interesting one to break down. It's by Arslan Ash, and he made a YouTube video explaining his own list, by the way, which you should definitely go and look at if you want his own deep analysis of this. The interesting thing about Arslan is that he has a very strong offline scene that is separate from, you know, Japan and Korea and these other places. And in Pakistan, you know, people like go to his house and play Tekken with him, and you have all these top tier guys playing, so they have like their own, you know, meta and their own perspective on these things, which is why it's a bit more of a fresh perspective. But if we look at the top tier again, we've got Julia, Fakum Lam, Akuma, and then you go down a little bit and you've got Devil Jin, Leroy, and Geese. So interestingly, it seems like even if you're in like Ireland or Thailand or Pakistan, the top tier is almost crystallized, and I think we're approaching something that can maybe be called objective truth when it comes to what the top tier in this game actually looks like, which is very, very interesting. Is there anything weird about this? I mean, Claudio is high up, interesting. Zafine, I think, barely making it into the top 10 again. I think that's where she belongs, just right below the very top tiers. He still thinks that Leroy is very good. Feng is up here. Maybe that's a little bit of a weird one, but it makes sense to me. And I can imagine there are probably some really, really strong and cool Feng players who are doing things in Arslan's local area that we don't know about. And then at the bottom, you've got your Eddies, your Chloes, your Larses, your Bears, Gigas, Armor King, Anna. So, I mean, at least top and bottom, we're seeing pretty much the same opinions from these great players, which is so very interesting. I think Hwoarang should be higher, and then the other thing that is interesting about this is that people tend to really place Gon Ryu far down. According to Harada, he's currently the most successful character in the game, but that's obviously not at the level of play that these players are at. But I do think that Gon Ryu is extremely good. I think his down forward 2 is like uniquely powerful. I think his down forward 3 is like uniquely powerful. I think his down forward 1+2, which is a hit confirmable wall splitting tool, might be one of the best wall splitting tools in the game, and then it leads to one of the most powerful wall combos as well with the 100 hands, right? So maybe underestimating or lowballing Hwoarang and Gon Ryu, but then again, you know, these are amazing, like top tier competitive players, so who am I to say? So yeah, video looking at these lists. I hope you enjoyed. I won't be making one of my own, but if you are interested in the Infinity tier list, I'm gonna link it in the description so you can go back and look at that if you're interested at all. But thank you so much for watching this one, and I'll see you guys again very soon.